In this video I will show you an application of Terracotta Plaster which uses it as a surface texture rather than casting it in a mould. Now this is the sculpture I've started, and you can see that I've got quite a good texture here, and it's roughly modelled, and it's on this aluminium armature with an aluminium mesh. Now, where would I purchase this kind of plaster? This is the Taranti formula, terracotta cast with iron, and this is a 2.5 kilogram tub. It can come in 25 kilogram tubs. It's in a nice sealable lid, so it has a long shelf life, so you don't have to use all of it in one go. So this is unusual because it's a plaster that has a pigment in it, and it's mostly ground iron dust, which is added to the plaster to make it extra strong. Now the tools that we're going to use, I'm going to use a stainless steel spatula, which is Italian, this steel scraper or spatula, and a scoop, an aluminium scoop. I'm also going to use, just put that to one side, put the lid back on. I'm also going to use these mixing bowls, and I find them very useful. They come in lots of different sizes, and they're very flexible, so you can break any of the plaster out if you have any left in the bottom. So, and they're cleanable and they last a long time. Right, let's move that to one side a little bit. So how to mix this? Well, this plaster, you do not need to weigh it out or do any complicated mathematics. It's totally straightforward. So I have in the mixing bowl cold water. So I think I'll do that, that's better. So I'm going to just use the scoop and cover the surface of the water as best I can, rather than trying to just throw it in one lump. And the plaster is dropping to the bottom of the bowl and the water is coming up to the surface. So the idea, when you know you've got the right mix, is that there's no water. There's a little bit of water left, so just a bit more. If you overfill it, you can just add a little bit more water. Okay, so mixing it, it's just simple, just like catering really. It's just fold it in, and the idea is I'm making this stiff paste, and that's the reason I'm doing it like this, so you can model with it. And as you can see, if I put the spatula through it, or the small tool, it will hold its shape up. So, yes, that's all mixed. Right. I'm wearing nitrile gloves because the pigment in the plaster is quite strong, and if you get it on your hands it's quite difficult to get off. But also if your mobile phone rings, you just cover everything in plaster. So I'm going to put it on steel to steel, and by doing that the water comes to the surface, so it makes it nice and sticky. So I'm just going to put that there and bring back the sculpture. So I'm just going to literally just push it into the mould. So I push it in onto the sculpture, onto the armature, onto the mesh, and I can be quite liberal with it, because ultimately what we're going to try and do is model with it. and get the trowel marks or craters or whatever you'd like to do. It takes a few minutes to set. I mean, you've got a working time of 5 minutes, but you've probably got 10 more minutes to actually scrape it or scratch it or cut it or chip it, and add more texture to it. Okay, I think we've got the idea of that. It's quite pleasurable to do. Let's put that to one side, out the way. Okay, so bring my book in. This is a book of Lynn Chadwick, and in the late 1950s to 1970s, he extensively used this material. And as you can see from these drawings, he's got these outlines, and the sculpture is steel rod welded at the ends to make a kind of armature very similar to what I've just shown you. And then he covered it with mesh, and he used the same material. Now the material, this one's got a pigment in it, because then you could leave it just as brown, a brown coat or earthy colour, and to finish it just wax it with a natural wax. But he also used a white one. Now by applying this to an armature and to a mesh, the sculptures are actually hollow, and that makes a lot of things easy from the point of view of drawing them out and moving them, because Chadwick would make these originals and then exhibit the originals, and then if somebody wanted to purchase this sculpture, he would go to a foundry and then they would cast it into bronze. Well, that brings the end of the demonstration. I do hope there's some takeaways for you, and you might look into this product. Thank you so much for watching.